The time is precisely 1:15 p.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. News edited by Danushka Madhavala and read by Chandima Veerakon. Headlines. The Mahasangha emphasized that the President is able to guide the country into a correct path during this difficult situation. The Premier says that fruitful discussions are taking place to significantly reduce the powers of the President and hand it over to Parliament. The Election Commission will hold discussions with the political parties regarding the changes of the electoral system. Around 200 types of essential medicines are being manufactured in the country at present. WFP aims to reach 3.4 million people in Sri Lanka with food and nutrition assistance. The first Randoli Perahara of the Kandy Sri Dalada Maligawa will parade the streets tonight. Grace period to deposit undeclared foreign currency. In news overseas, US military exercise to take place near Chinese border. In sports news, Elaine Thompson, Hera, completes sprint double with 200-meter gold. Local stories in detail. The Mahanayaka of the Sri Kalyani Shamagri Sangha Sabha and the Chancellor of the Sri Jayawardhanapura University, Most Venerable Ittapane Dhammalankara Thera, says that the President, Ranil Wickremesinghe, is able to guide the country into a correct path during this difficult situation. The Thera made this comment when the President visited yesterday to inquire the well-being of the Nayaka Thera Dharmavijaya Loka temple in Kottawa. The Mahanayaka Thera wishes the President to develop the country from this crisis. The President says that even though he faced many personal losses, he had to act according to the Constitution to protect people and the country. The President said that the rule of law is a very crucial factor in a country. The Mahasangha emphasized the President that the government should allow the general public to protest peacefully. And also, it is the responsibility of the government to control illegal activities. Anunayaka of the Sri Kalyani Shamagri Sangha Sabha, Venerable Kotapitiye Rahula Thera, says that it is sad to note that some bhikkhus and religious leaders were too much engaged in political activities. The Thera also said that Mahasangha should only be giving opinions to the leaders of the nation. Mahasangha should act to build trust between the government and the people of the country. But the Thera says it was not seen during the past period. Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena says that fruitful discussions are taking place to significantly reduce the powers of the President and hand it over to the Parliament. The new constitution, including these amendments, will be presented to the Parliament within the next few weeks. The Prime Minister was speaking after engaging in religious activities in Kosgama Boralugoda Sri Vardhanarama Temple. The Premier went on to say that some powers will be vested with the constitutional committees. He added that the government is ready for a considerable change in the administration for the betterment of people and the country. The Election Commission says it is ready to hold discussions with the political parties regarding the changes of the electoral system suggested by the Parliament Special Working Committee. Accordingly, a discussion will take place tomorrow with the representatives of the political parties. Measures will be taken to bring those suggestions agreed by the political parties' representatives as a law. The Election Commission hopes to meet the political party members who do not present the Parliament in future date. The government audit says that some officials of the government and some government institutions had taken steps to increase their fuel allowance in a huge amount by amending it according to the new fuel prices. The government audit says it is not suitable to increase fuel allowance at a difficult time like this. Chairman of the State Pharmaceutical Manufacturing Corporation, Utpala Veerasinghe, says that around 200 types of essential medicines are being manufactured in the country at present. The country is able to save billions of dollars due to this move. The corporation says they get many ingredients locally. A separate program is being implemented to train students who are engaged in higher education regarding medicine manufacturing. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Continuing with the local stories, the World Food Programme is seeking donor support to reach 3.4 million people in Sri Lanka with food and nutrition assistance, as nearly a quarter of Sri Lanka is facing food shortages and rising prices reduce access to food for millions. Sri Lanka's worst economic crisis since independence is spinning off a serious food crisis, says the World Food Programme representative and country director Abdul Rahim Siddiqui. He describes a toxic mix of spiking prices, shrinking crop yields and fallout of the war in Ukraine and a lack of state funds to pay for key supplies. A recent assessment by WFP and the UN Food and Agriculture Organization shows that 6.3 million people, that is nearly 30% of the population, are food insecure. It comes as WFP warns of an unprecedented global food crisis. The first Randoli Perahara of the annual Asala Perahara Festival of the Temple of the Tooth Relic will parade the streets of Kandy tonight. The first Kumbal Perahara paraded the streets on the 2nd of August, while the final Kumbal Perahara of this year's Asala Perahara Festival took place last night. The Vadana Nilame Pradeep Tilangadala Bandara said the Grand Randoli procession will be held on the 11th of August. To conclude the local news, the headlines again. The Mahasangha emphasized that the President is able to guide the country into a correct path during this difficult situation. The Premier says that fruitful discussions are taking place to significantly reduce the powers of the President and hand it over to the Parliament. The Election Commission will hold discussions with the political parties regarding the changes of the electoral system. Around 200 types of essential medicines are being manufactured in the country at present. WFP aims to reach 3.4 million people in Sri Lanka with food and nutrition assistance. That ends the local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Moving on with the main news story, Sri Lanka reported 5 deaths due to COVID-19 on Friday after the figures were confirmed by the Director General of Health Services on Friday, the 5th of August. All deaths reported are of elderly people in the 60 years and above age group. Meanwhile, another 167 people infected with COVID-19 have been identified yesterday. According to the Epidemiology Unit of the Health Ministry, since the outbreak of the COVID-19 infection in February 2020, Sri Lanka has reported 666,580 infections and 16,583 deaths to date. That ends the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Watch Life is brought to you by
A Strength to Your Life. CIB Janajaya Vasana has commenced. Valuable gifts and all bills are on 31st of October. Come to CIB today.
And on Watchlight, the National Transport Medical Institute has announced that its medical examination fees for driving licenses will be increased from tomorrow. The National Transport Medical Institute further stated that this revision was made due to the increase in price of medical examination fees and the materials and equipment used for it. Accordingly, the new medical examination fee to obtain a new driving license or renewal for light vehicles is to be increased to 1,500 rupees. That ends Watchlight.
A strength to your life. CIB Janajaya Vasana has commenced. Valuable gifts and all bills are on 31st of October. Come to CIB today.
And moving on to the world news, the headlines. Financial Times says Erdogan's diplomacy with Russia alarms West. Israel estimates length of Gaza fighting. US military exercise to take place near Chinese border. World news. In detail. The Financial Times has reported that Western officials are increasingly alarmed that Turkey, a NATO ally and prospective EU member, is deepening its cooperation with Russia. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan recently returned from Sochi, vowing to boost trade after talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin. 6 unnamed Western officials told the newspaper that they were concerned about the plans of Russia and Turkey to cooperate on trade and energy. One EU official said that Brussels was monitoring relations between Ankara and Moscow more and more closely, given how Turkey seems to be increasingly becoming a platform for trade with Russia. Following a 4-hour meeting with Putin on Friday, Erdogan welcomed Russia's role in building a nuclear power plant in Turkey. The two nations aim for bilateral trade turnover of $100 billion and are cooperating against terrorism and toward peace in Libya and Syria. The Israel Defense Forces yesterday said they are prepared for a week of fighting after Israel began striking targets in Gaza the previous day. They added that there are no peace talks at the moment. The IDF said that more than 160 rockets have been fired at Israel from Gaza since Friday afternoon. The Iron Dome missile defense system destroyed 95% of the rockets mid-air, Brigadier General Ran Koshav, the spokesman for the Defense Forces, said. The American and Indian militaries will hold joint exercises in the Himalayan mountains in October, less than 100 kilometers from India's disputed border with China. CNN reported that the location was announced amid heightened tensions between the US and China over Taiwan, while India and China have been clashing along their mountain border. The drills will be held in mid-October near the town of AUG in Indian state of Uttarakhand, an Indian Army officer told CNN on Saturday. AUG sits on the southern slopes of the Himalayas, and the exercises will focus on warfare at an altitude of 10,000 feet. AUG is also situated around 95 kilometers from the line of actual control, a loosely defined border that divides India and China. While both sides claim territory on the other side of this line, it has served as the de facto border between the two countries since the end of the 1962 Sino-Indian War. To conclude the world news, the headlines again. Financial Times says Erdogan's diplomacy with Russia alarms West. Israel estimates length of Gaza fighting. US military exercise to take place near Chinese border. That ends the world news. And on the development news, Chairman of the Litro Gas Company, Mudita Perez, has said that the price of liquefied petroleum gas will be reduced from midnight Monday. It is reported that the price of a 12.5 kilogram domestic gas cylinder may be reduced by more than 200 rupees, according to the price formula for gas introduced by the Ministry of Finance and Consumer Affairs Authority. The chairman has also claimed that the company has enough gas stocks to ensure that queues will not be formed in the future, and added that gas orders have been placed to have sufficient gas until October. He also explained that shipments of August, September and October have been confirmed. That ends the development news.
Sports News is brought to you by
Sampath Bank. We present your future.
Taking a look at the sports news, Jamaica's Elaine Thompson-Herah replicated her Olympic sprint double as she charged to Commonwealth 200-meter gold. The 28-year-old who took Wednesday's 100-meter title had the race won early, streaking clear of Nigeria's Favour Ofili and Namibia's Christine Mboma. Her winning time of 20.02 seconds is a new Games record, beating the 22.09 seconds set by Sean Miller-Uibo. England's Zonal Hu had to settle for silver behind Trinidad and Tobago's Jereme Richards in the men's race. Just as in Gold Coast 2018, the pair cut clear of the rest to contest gold. That ends sports news.
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Elon Musk said that if Twitter Incorporated could provide its method of sampling 100 accounts and how it confirmed that the accounts are real, his $44 billion US deal to buy the company should proceed on its original terms. Twitter on Thursday dismissed Musk's claims that he was hookwind into signing a deal to buy the social media company, saying that it was implausible and contrary to fact. That ends business news.
Business News, sponsored by
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Economic news, courtesy of
I bought my daughter a laptop for her work by managing my finances. Whatever the expenses may be, I can't afford to miss out on life's special moments like her birthday or our anniversary. So you need to invest to make your family's future flourish.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibilities. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
And on economic news, the Finance Ministry has decided to give a 1-month grace period to deposit in licensed commercial banks any amount of undisclosed foreign currencies, including US dollars and UK sterling pounds, earned by Sri Lankan citizens through various channels, without any legal impediment or restrictions. An opportunity will be given to people to deposit any amount of foreign currencies earned through foreign employment, tourism, various other programs and overseas training and workshops, and which they still have in their possession during this grace period. However, they will not have to disclose how they came into possession of such foreign currency, and there will not be any penalties for not declaring them earlier. That ends the economic news.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
And now taking a look at the weather report. Showers will occur at times in Sabaragamu province and in Nuwara Eliya and Kandy districts. Several spells of showers may occur in western and northwestern provinces and in Galle and Madra districts. Strong winds about 50 km per hour can be expected at times over the western slopes of the Central Hills, northern, north-central and southern provinces and in the Trincomalee district. That ends the weather report. And to conclude this bulletin of news, the headlines again. The Mahasangha emphasized that the President is able to guide the country into a correct path during this difficult situation. The Premier says that fruitful discussions are taking place to significantly reduce the powers of the President and hand it over to the Parliament. The Election Commission will hold discussions with the political parties regarding the changes of the electoral system. Around 200 types of essential medicines are being manufactured in the country at present. WFP claims to reach 3.4 million people in Sri Lanka with food and nutrition assistance. Grace period to deposit undeclared foreign currency. In news overseas, US military exercise to take place near Chinese border. In sports, Elaine Thompson-Hera completes sprint double with 200-meter gold. And with that, we conclude this bulletin of news from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.